loud on my own. So we were starting off with the debate, and the topic is the WHO checklist improves patient safety in category 1 cesarean sections. We have two very experienced speakers. One is Stephanie Glover from Sheffield, and the other is Amanda Whitepond from York. And I was given a very nice biography to talk about both of them, and I decided to anesthetists, which you would expect them to be. And they're both consultant anesthetists. So that's all we would need, I suppose. But I asked Stephanie, is there anything interesting I can talk about before we start off the debate? And she said, well, actually I'm a very boring person. I don't do anything interesting. So there was hardly anything much to talk about. But she did say that she participated in a, was it in a night? You asked me not to say that, but I decided I would say that. 1960s.
It was a Peter K. dance club.
There
went out in public dressed in 1980s aerobic wear.
Now, isn't that interesting? For that one reason alone, you have to give her your vote. So anyway, so that's Stephanie.
But it's not a regular thing.
You can take away your vote then. Amanda is a very good friend, and she's been associated with the society. In fact, we set up the Hull York Study Day, which was a predecessor to the Yorkshire Society of Obstetric Anaesthetists. A very passionate person who you can call upon her to debate or talk about any topic. And you can give her just about 48 hours notice and she will do it. So if any of you have a slot in your meetings. Now the interesting thing is, I was asked to do this topic, to debate against. And I said, oh no, I can't, because I am the WHO checklist lead for my trust and I'm overhauling it, and ethics and morality and all that. And then Amanda comes and tells me, oh no, I'm also the lead for the WHO checklist, but it's okay, I can debate against it. So very kind of you to have taken it up at the last minute for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by asking you to have a show of hands as to how many of you are for the motion. And I'm going to read it out again in case you weren't paying attention. The WHO checklist improves patient safety in category 1 cesarean sections. How many for? I think it would be easy to count the against. So, against, okay, if you can just keep your hands up. 1, 2, God, I did this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and there's a late person there, so 20, okay? So 20 against, and we'll have the same count at the end. So over to you, Stephanie, and I will give you an indication when you're 1 minute away.
Okay, thank you. So I've been asked to argue for the WHO checklist improves patient safety in category 1 cesarean section. So, how did this all start? Well, in 2004, the WHO became interested in surgical procedures. It were estimated that there were 200 million operations in 2004, which averaged out to 1 per 25 people per year. And as you can see, there are many complications, many major complications in death, and it was deemed that half of these were potentially preventable. In developing countries, the situation is even, and still is, pretty desperate. The death rate from major surgery is pretty high, and the death from anaesthesia could go to 1 in 150 anaesthetics in sub-Saharan Africa. So the WHO became interested in this idea that surgical safety is a significant global public health concern. We already know this needs this, don't we? Many people assume that having an operation is a good thing that's going to make you better. If only that were true. So this was a major piece of work that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, that this safe surgery checklist kind of came from really, and it were a big study where they looked at nearly 4,000 patients pre-checklist and nearly 4,000 patients post-checklist, and across centres worldwide that were both low-income settings and developed countries. And as you can see, that across all these healthcare settings, they decreased the death rate post-op by introducing this checklist, and they decreased the inpatient complications rate. And then this formed the guidelines for this document, the WHO guidelines. this is a paper that kind of another way of looking at its usefulness, and one of the authors is Ysoa, one of the kind of people who push this checklist business. And this we're looking at safety attitudes, so it's a safety attitude questionnaire, and basically after they introduce the checklist, people's safety attitudes improve, which is what you'd expect. So I think that's the evidence that the World Health Organization checklist improves patient safety for surgical procedures. I think the category on cesarean section is a surgical procedure, so I'm finished. And then you're going to say, but there's not any evidence in obstetrics. Well, do you know what? There's not. But I found it, which was just a little paper from Glasgow, I think, where they just did a questionnaire pre and post introduction. And generally people liked it. 80% thought it really to use. But interesting, and I think this is one of the most interesting points, is that 93% of theatre staff questioned was one of the checklists used if they were having an operation. That has improved communication, and that most patients knew that it was happening, but they didn't find it anxiety provoking, because that's always one thing in obstetrics, that people think you can't be talking about death, life-threatening hemorrhage when the patient's awake. But you know, it's true to a point. But yeah, it's a category 1 section, there isn't time. So we're very much in a culture of more haste, less speed in obstetrics in the category 1 section, and we need to galvanise ourselves against this, and the checklist is a means to do this. Now this story might not be true, but it's a good story that somebody told me once about them going to do a cesarean section, and they walked bent down at the side of the table with kind of tourniquet, patching patient hand like this, and the midwife pushed her out of the way and said, "It's a category 1, there's not time for a candidate." And why are we in such a rush anyway? So this is the document from 2010, which is where they started classifying. I'm sure they did before this, but classifying cesarean sections as a condition of risk. And this is when the people, you know, this business of an audit standard of delivery, decision to delivery interval. But interesting is, you know, if you've got a court lapse, 30 days is way too long. But for a lot of things, there's not great evidence that it matters, in that delivery within 75 minutes does not appear to increase risk of compromise, and delivery in 30 minutes is not always, does not always result in a good neonatal outcome, depending on what's happened. This is an important thing, that undue haste to achieve a short interval can introduce its own risk, which we all know. We know this in anaesthetic. Here's a nice guidance. This came from that document, so it's pretty much the same. And then it says in that middle bit, remember that rapid delivery may be harmful in certain circumstances. And it says that the 30-minute DDI should be used as an audit standard and not to judge multidisciplinary team performance for any individual section. Audit standard, that's interesting. So yesterday I spoke to our midwifery governance lead about what audit data they collect and what they have to do with these and what the consequences are if you don't meet the audit standard. And interestingly, we're not collecting this information anymore. We used to, but we're not now. So until 2015, auditing our performance against the RCOG standards were part of trying to get this CNST level 2, which is the Clinical Negligence Scheme of Trust. That would do this. Unfortunately, there's something else going on that's possibly more sinister. The new sinisterly renamed NHS resolution, which is the new name of the NHS litigation authority. And what they're interested in is cases that have gone bad, real bad, in an expensive way. And so what the data that we're collecting now, the JSME, is not decision to deliver interval, it's on all the poor babies who've had a significant brain injury. And each case is going to be looked at, picked apart individually. So, this is the checklist. We've got a checklist. I've been involved with writing this and keep tweaking it. And we're going to tweak it again, actually. When you first introduced it, all this, there's not time. So, we tried just doing an abbreviated version, just doing the red things before induction. But now we're moving towards doing the whole of the first column before induction. And then having the time out just after the delivery of the baby. But it's evolving. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's evolving. There's a strong bioethical argument for doing the safe surgery checklist, especially from point 2, which is non-maleficence, which is a great word, which is the real reason I put that slide. But we've got to not do harm, we've got to not do harm to the mother. And the mother is not just a vessel for this unborn baby, a disposable vessel for this unborn baby, but we can do anything to in the interest of delivering this precious cargo. And so is it ever right to compromise the woman's safety for the sake of the unborn baby? That's no. So we were in a rush. Imagine this. You're in theatre, somebody comes up and you manage to get a candidate and you're doing well. Do a GA section, mass obstetric hemorrhage needs, blood transfusion. Have they seen proof electronic issue? Nobody knows. Can you check the blood? Let's see what the handbook of transfusion medicine says. So that's the essentials, right? Blood right patient right time plate. One bit of that is especially interesting, which we all know. Failure to check patient identity can be fatal. Patients must wear an ID band. So imagine that, you're in the patient's Cat 1 section, there's no time to do any checks, there's no time to do any checks. So you're just going to give this one any old blood that could belong to anybody, because there's no time to do any checks, because it's just too much of a rush for this precious cargo. Now this is a good story, because I was involved with it. Not in this, don't make me look good, by the way. So I'm an anaesthetist too. So I was called in for this woman who was really harvested and critical incident. So she would have failed intubation, she'd got an LMA in, she was in the middle of having a massive postpartum hemorrhage. The baby went out, I came in and started trying to be helpful. So I shouted across the room, I'm an anaesthetist too. Is she right trying to think? No. I looked at the anaesthetic chair, really I thought, oh, brilliant. And because the baby were already out and it was middle at night, I thought, I can't remember to be careful metal. So I got some ornament, and then an anaesthetist one shouts from the other side of the theatre, she's still through the party now. Apart from penicillin and the empty syringe, were in my hand, and you know you get that certain feeling in them circumstances, but nobody else in the theatre participated. A lot of we were the only people in the theatre, and when I said, is this patient related to anything, nobody else participated. This is pre-checklist days where people are even more removed from the conduct of anaesthesia and surgery than they are now. But imagine that, imagine how this would pan out. We were in a rush, so we didn't phone a paediatrician, and this really poorly, baby in a poor condition was born, and I'm resuscitated. Oh, and the woman were in a hypoglycemic coma. Oh, and then nobody wrote up down the power, and 6 weeks later. Oh, we had a difficult intubation, so now there's no citrate. We just had time to check, this is the Cat 1 section, we were too much for row. I love checklists, and I love checklists because they get me in the Zen space. In fact, I love checklists so much that we've introduced another one for Jason. Instrumental writing. So not only do we do the World Health Organization checklist when we do a Cat 1 section, we squeeze in another one as well. So, if you say you're not doing the checklist, why are you really not doing it? Do you genuinely believe it not to be beneficial? Do you genuinely believe it to be harmful? Are you scared of being criticised for time wasting? Is it really not about you? Back to the sinister NHS resolution of brain injury baby. I've never been involved in one of these cases so far, I'm sure I will be eventually. And it's going to be grim and it's going to be brutal. And these cases are going to be picked apart. And if you want me to say to you, I absolutely promise that if you spend 2 minutes doing a checklist, nobody's ever going to criticise you for time wasting. But you know, that's probably not true. Because if you have a brain injured baby, they're going to be COVID proof for anything. And they're going to be COVID proof for anything because they've got a disabled child. We've got to look after what rest of its life. And we just have to suck that up to an extent. But you can't expose countless women to risk of not doing adequate safe surgery checks just so you can protect yourself in the one case the brain injury baby, so you can say, oh well, I did it as quickly as I possibly could. It's a nonsense. And if you think that's bad, imagine that feeling when you've blown, you've got the empty syringe in your hand, you've got a failed intubation. Did she have the sodium citrate? No. She'd got a hair bun in. Well, no, we took that and I can't intubate.
Well done.
Yes. It's going to be the challenge, isn't it?
So, there are people in here then who think the WHO checklist improves patient safety in category 1 caesarean sections, are there? Nobody criticises the WHO checklist. It is the sacred cow of our era. You cannot criticise the WHO checklist. However, maybe I'm about to. The thing is, what do we actually mean by the WHO checklist? Different people mean different things. variation on this, which is 3 checklists: pre-anaesthetic, pre-surgical, and the sign-out. Then we've also got the 5 steps to safer surgery. And actually, when I'm talking about it, I mean all 5 of those, because I think that's what can make surgery safer, and that includes the briefing, the sign-in, the time-out, the sign-out, and the debriefing. But even that's not quite as straightforward, because in York, we talk about the SPI, the pre-anaesthetic stop, the pre-incision stop, the sign-out, and the debrief. And see, it's all a little bit muddled, isn't it? And if there's one thing you don't want in a category 1 caesarean section, it's more muddle. So, this is the man, who's already been mentioned. Who hasn't read the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande? Well, you should. It's a very good book and it's a very good read. And it's not difficult, it's not long. I would recommend it to you. Atul Gawande is quite a hero, really. He's definitely a good man. He's a Reith lecturer. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'm a great Radio 4 fan, and every Christmas they have Reith lecturers where very honourable and highly revered people do a series of lectures over Christmas. And 2 years ago, Atul Gawande did it. It's a long time since a medic has done one, and he did them on patient safety, and he was excellent. I would say he's done more for patient safety than any of us in this room. However, he is not an obstetrician, he's not an anaesthetist, and he does mainly elective surgery. When was the last time he had to anaesthetise a woman with a cord prolapse? Now, I don't know who has or hasn't anaesthetised or been involved with women with cord prolapses in this room, but for any of you who haven't or haven't for a while, I'm just going to remind you of the scenario. What happens is, you're having a cup of tea or doing a few emails, and you hear a little bit of a commotion going out on the labour ward. You go out, and the flight of the Valkyries is coming up the corridor. You have a bed, and on that bed is a woman on all fours with her bum in the air. Also on the bed is a midwife with her hand up the unmentionable part of this woman. These days, both the woman and the midwife probably have a BMI over 40. So, there will be a lot of people pushing that bed. And every one of those people will be saying, you're going to have to go to sleep, you're going to have to go to sleep, you're going to have to go to sleep. And you are supposed to step into that situation, assess that patient's safety for a general anaesthetic or alternative anaesthetic, and gain control of the situation. Now, I'd like you to remember that image while we talk a little bit more about checklists. So, the airline industry, that's where checklists started, isn't it? What a lovely picture of doing a checklist. It's very nice and clean in there, isn't it? Nice, smart uniforms. Look, he's even got a crease in his shirt. Nice laminated copies of a chart. No blood, no partners, no midwives on beds. It's quite easy, isn't it, to go, shall we do the checklist? Shall we do this? We'll do the checklist. However, there are other ways of flying a plane. Who remembers the sonic boom of about a year ago? Certainly, we heard it. In my neck of the woods, we all rushed out of our houses to see what was going on. Met neighbours we'd never seen before, as 2 typhoons were scrambled from Lincolnshire to try and chase an unknown aircraft out of the vicinity. One imagines their use of any checklist was slightly different from the one that was done for whatever. And I would say, what we're talking really about is the comparisons of Jet 2 to Malaga versus scrambling 2 RAF typhoons, or an elective lap-chole versus a cord prolapse. And we have to be very careful about extrapolating one to the other. So let's go back to the motion. The WHO checklist improves patient safety in category 1 caesarean sections. Does it? What are my concerns? Well, I'm going to very briefly whip through a bit about evidence, quite a bit about training, the risk of distracting professionals at vital moments, and my real point being that a badly done checklist is worse than a checklist that isn't done. So evidence. There is some evidence that a WHO checklist has improved patient safety, and I'm not going to go into that because I need Stephanie to cover it. There's also the odd publication that says it hasn't. But what they do have in common is they do not refer to grade 1 sections. Even when the Royal College of Obs and Gynae brought out its modified checklist for obstetrics, it was very cautious about saying we should use it in category 1 caesarean sections. And it said, it is feasible in emergency cases once teams have become accustomed, and I think that's where we get into trouble. Now, I'm going to assert that we do the checklist badly. I'm going to assert that a badly done checklist is possibly more dangerous than a no checklist, and that it disrupts, it distracts, and it can make things more dangerous. Now, you're all sitting here thinking, yeah, rubbish, we do the checklist, fine. Well, what I'm about to do is put up a number of my pet hates about the checklist. And I would say I've seen all these happen in the last month, and I suspect most of you have. So the first one, reciting it from memory. It's very clear in the guidance for how to introduce the checklist that it should be read. If someone's doing it from memory, you're adding another risk. But people do that to save time, and especially at the end of the debriefing. Session is late, do it, any case out. Not good, it should be read out. It's okay, I filled it in. It's quite common, isn't it? I find that everything's ticked and you haven't even got to that part of the procedure. I find that particularly in obstetrics because a midwife has been with that woman for hours. They know they're going to go to theatre, so let's just complete this bit of cake. It's completely missing the point. The checklist is about making sure that everyone in the room knows everything about the patient and everyone is taking part in reducing that risk. Doing it when people are busy doing something else important. This happens a lot, doesn't it? There's a lot of pressure to get on with things. And particularly, I think, the pre-surgical one, there's a real... The surgeons, they want to get in there, they want to get the hands washed, and they want to get the knife. And basically, there's the pressure to do it. They're often doing it while the nurse or the midwife is still doing their count, while we're popping into the anaesthetic room to get the antibiotics or some ephedrine because the blood pressure's crashed. They don't care, they just want to get it done. But everyone needs to be taking part. Assuming the answer. We said at the briefing that they're allergic to penicillin. I don't need to mention it again. But you do, because I may well have forgotten. Or making a joke of it. And, you know, we have to be really careful about that. Particularly with our awake patients. I often hear whoever's doing saying, we've just got to ask all those boring questions again, making it sound like it's a real waste of time. But it isn't. We don't believe it's a waste of time, do we? So why are we doing that? Calling it a group hug. I really don't know that. Or making some joke about the allergens because you think there's no reason that's relevant in theatre. So training, just really quickly. We need to train people properly, and then we need to do it properly. Because if we don't reinforce our practice by doing it properly, the training becomes irrelevant. And a lot of us haven't either trained in doing the checklist or trained others in actually doing it. We must train in teams, because just one non-believer in the team can make a mockery of the whole thing, particularly if they're a senior member, if they're a consultant anaesthetist or a consultant surgeon. And midwives have often been out of this training loop because they have so much other training to do. I would suggest that the majority of midwives in this country have not been trained how to use the checklist. And why would they? Surgery is quite a small part of their work. Usually they expect to come in and look after a woman in the room who's going to then have a normal delivery and a 6-hour discharge. Who checklists were later introduced onto day boards, and actually now the obvious place to practice, which is elective sections, are often done somewhere completely different by different teams. So when is an ordinary midwife going to get to practice it? So we have things that can help our practice. There are specific forms. This is the one from the Royal College of Obs and Gynae, which is maternity specific. And this is Dr. Robbins's wonderful work of beauty in York. So, to summarise, I would say the evidence isn't yet there for category 1 sections, but actually I'm not arguing that's a reason not to do it. Training must be focused on how to do the checklist. And the way it is done can distract at vital moments. Badly done is more dangerous than not done. So going back to the motion, the WHO checklist improves patient safety in category 1 sections. I would say not yet, but it does have the potential to. And I call on you all to be champions. Make sure there's silence when it's done. Make sure it's read out. Ask everyone to be able to take part. And challenge gently, not aggressively, if it's not being done properly. Treat it with respect. And vote no. But go out into the world and make sure that this time next year we can vote yes.
Thank you very much for a very entertaining 20 minutes. I'd like to say a few things, but that might influence the vote. So, So the same motion again. How many, did we said against last time? It's easier to count. So how many against? Little bit more time for people who are half up and half. I think if I wait a little bit more, there'll be more people, right? So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26,
No, we have one
27, 28, 29, 30.
We have one, that's it.
Oh!
Yeah, that's it.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, because before was 21.
Yes. So just moving, so I have to be guided. So if we increase the number of negative votes.
Yeah, that's it. Motion has won. Against has won.
Right. I've been guided by people who know the mathematics better than me. So Stephanie is still the winner, but he managed to sway the vote. There was a 10% swing in your direction. So well done. Thank you very much.